China's government plays a prominent role in maintaining Chinese nationalism within its population while simultaneously restoring its image on a global scale. Through its domestic tourism industry and its modern urban planning, the Chinese government establishes its appearance as a leading global power both from within and abroad. As China accomplished economic growth and modernization at an unprecedented rate, it holds many achievements to boast about. However, the government often intentionally alters the way its history is presented and told to maintain its desired reputation. While Chinese citizens hold a natural sense of national pride, the government's propaganda efforts enhance their nationalism even further. As a result, China's domestic tourism industry continuously expands each year, beginning after the economic reformation and opening under Deng Xiaoping that increased the number of citizens who were able to afford traveling. In fact, domestic tourist attraction hosted over 2.8 billion visits by the Chinese population in 2018, which was an increase of 11.4% from the previous year, according to the China Tourism Academy. After visiting several popular Chinese tourist attractions myself, this statistic is not at all surprising, as we were often surrounded by other groups filled with local travelers. Domestic tourism benefits the government in several ways, one being its revenue. By 2015, tourism by Chinese citizens produced 114 billion US dollars worth of revenue. While China's tourism industry as a whole only contributed to 2.1% of China's GDP in 2016, it allowed for 22.5 million jobs. Low unemployment and high GDP are optimal for a country's economy, so the tourism industry aids in achieving that goal. Even further, when a nation's economy is stronger, its citizens tend to have a stronger sense of nationalism, providing additional reasoning for domestic tourism to be encouraged by the government. Another benefit of this industry is that it provides another way the government censors the information its citizens are exposed to. As I witnessed the blatant censorship of TV news channels entirely shutting off when covering stories the government deems inappropriate, censorship through tourism is much more subtle. At any museum in the world, there is an informative sign that describes what the viewer is looking at. However, Chinese museums purposely only provide information that present China in a positive light. This is different in other countries who acknowledge instances of wrongdoing, such as the establishment of a Holocaust museum. With the government only allowing certain parts of its history to be presented, citizens are often unaware of instances of Chinese officials' mistakes, such as the handling of the Tiananmen Square rebellion. Almost all of the museums visited during our trip highlighted China's rapid growth and development or praised the establishment of the Chinese Communist Party.
China is developing and modernizing at an incredible rate. The government wants to be recognized as an international power, and the 2008 Olympics in Beijing were a great example of this desire for global recognition. The Olympic Village and 37 different stadiums were constructed in extravagant style, costing the Chinese government over $40 billion in preparation for the Games. The government saw this as an opportunity to gain exposure and generate interest in China. The impact of hosting these games went beyond economics and a desire for global recognition, as the Chinese invested $12.2 billion to improve Beijing's environment before the Games. In both Beijing and Shanghai, it was interesting to see what the government was prioritizing. Cleanliness was definitely a priority, as it seemed like there was a guy on every corner making sure there wasn't trash on the ground. I thought this was interesting because it was clear that despite having a massive economy to manage, they still focused on the little details. Everywhere we went in both Beijing and Shanghai, there were cranes constructing new high-rises. On the bike tour in Shanghai, we stopped at this bridge and could count over 12 cranes just from this one viewpoint. China continues to add these skyscrapers to accommodate for a rapidly growing population that is becoming increasingly urban. According to the Los Angeles Times, government officials plan on capping Beijing's population at approximately 23 million in the year 2020. This is an effort to save resources, not allow traffic to become any worse than it is, and become a global power in high-tech industries. The current population is right around 21.5 million, which means the government anticipates having 1.5 million people move to Beijing in the next year or so. Due to this massive expansion, the government evicts entire neighborhoods at a time. Some of these are ancient homes viewed by the government as historically insignificant, and families that have lived here for generations are being told to move out without any say in the matter. When we went to eat lunch in the house owned by the government, The woman who cooked for us was talking about how she was going to live there until the government told her to move somewhere else. She seemed very calm when she was saying this, and I was surprised by that. The Chinese centrally planned government allows their economy to expand and adapt to change at a pace much quicker than the slow wheels of democracy here in the United States. One example of this is when we went to see the bug market and it had literally vanished. The Chinese government decided it was not something they wanted anymore, and it was wiped off the map. The government has taken various other steps to become more efficient as a country. Students are specializing at an early age in efforts to become more efficient in their education process. We saw this firsthand in our visit to the high school in Beijing. High school students already know whether or not they're going to college and what they're going to do professionally for the rest of their lives. This shows a level of focus that is not present amongst American teenagers, where we're taught to try different things and pick something we're passionate about, rather than just doing a job because we're told we fit in with it. The Chinese government has a very specific narrative they want to project to the citizens and those around the world. The government uses things such as censorship, urban development, and specialization in an effort to become more recognizable as a power on the global stage. The Chinese government wants to be at the forefront of the economic world and has taken big steps to make their vision happen.